What's the situation, Chief?
About 10:15 this morning, received multiple phone calls of a possible fire or explosion at this address, 83 Plain Street. Crews arrived to heavy fire with the address of 83 Plain Street fully involved, and fire extending to the properties on both the left and right side of it.
Were there people in the house?
Initial reports were that there was a female with her child in the house, and there was additionally her boyfriend was in the house as well.
So those are the 3 people who were injured?
Right now there's 2 people that have been transported to the hospital. It took us a little while, but we did locate the boyfriend. He's fine. The mother, the female, was approximately 25 years old. She was transported to Rhode Island Hospital by Rainham Fire Department. And the child was approximately 2 years old, and that child was transported to Hasbro by Brewster Ambulance.
Car 1 know that the actual address is going to be 78.
I don't have the extent of the injuries, but from eyewitness reports, they're pretty severe.
Pretty
Chief,
severe?
Yes.
At this point, what do you know about the cause and the origin?
Cause and origin is under investigation by both Taunton Police and Taunton Fire investigators, and they're being assisted by the State Fire Marshal's Office right now. We do have Eversource on scene. They have shut the gas off in the area. Everything's under control as far as the gas is. They've checked houses in the area. Everything's good with that.
Does there appear to be anything suspicious here?
Too early to tell. I mean, like I said, we have to allow the investigators to do their job, and then it'll be probably a couple days, if not longer, before they come up with a determination.
And have you heard any indication that there was anything beforehand, any calls for service to the neighborhood?
That's being looked into right now.
And we're hearing that it was a state trooper's house. Is that true?
I have no idea whose house it is.
Is this a multifamily?
It is a 3-family house, correct.
Any challenges with responding here?
Obviously, we're recovering from a blizzard. The roads are lousy. The streets are narrow. It's, of course, yes.
Is there a lesson for everyone in this, and that the fire hydrants were buried in snow?
I don't have any reports of that right now. I mean, it's a little too early before we start looking at that. Obviously, after any snowstorm, City Hall, Fire Department, Fire Marshal's Office throughout the state has always asked people to go out and dig out their hydrants. I mean, yes. I mean, we need help from our neighbors to find the hydrants and uncover them.
Did you say it took you a while to find the boyfriend?
State police located him, yes.
Where did they locate him?
I have no idea.
But he wasn't here at the house?
He was not here at the house.
He wasn't at the hospital?
Not that I'm aware of.
So the mother and the child were here alone?
Initially, that's the initial reports, yes.
And the other 2 units were vacant?
From what we're being told, yes.
What's the extent of the damage to the other 2 homes?
The other 2 homes have heavy fire damage on the exterior. I was in one of them. It extended into the first floor area of a living space, but crews handled that quickly. Did a primary search on the first floor, primary search on the second floor, and then Rainham Fire, when they arrived on scene, they backed up that crew and did a secondary search, confirmed that there was no one in the building. The building on the left-hand side of the fire building was vacant. We did a primary search in there, checked it out. It was determined to be vacant.
And just to be clear, do you think the boyfriend was in the house at the time of the explosion, or
I have no idea about
just
that.
that he lives here?
I have no idea about that. All I know is that he lives here.
Okay.
Is the house a total loss?
Oh, yes. Yes, the house exploded.
Is there any danger to the rest of the neighborhood right now?
At this time, no. No danger. Like I said earlier, Eversource is here. They shut off the gas to that property. They've checked the neighboring houses. I'm told it's good.
What is left standing, if anything, from that property?
The 83 Plain Street?
Yeah.
There's nothing left standing. There's some 2x4s standing, but nothing left of the property to speak of.
And it's a 3-apartment home?
It's a 3-family apartment like the one behind you.
And do you know how the mother and the daughter got out of the house? Were they helped out? When you got here, I guess, where were they? Were they already out of the house?
I don't know that yet. I don't know that. Crews arrived to heavy fire. The structure was fully involved. They're dealing with, doing a search, trying to find people, protecting exposures all at once. Engine 3's crew under Captain Myers did a phenomenal job protecting exposures and handling the situation.
How many people have been evacuated from their neighboring homes around that?
I don't know how many people in the house on the right-hand side. It appears to be a one, possibly two-family house. I don't know the status of the house to the left. It's a house that's for sale. Not sure if anybody's living in it right now.
Chief, in a situation like this, how does the investigation actually take place? The home is demolished, totally destroyed. We have a ton of snow on the ground here. I would imagine there's all sorts of debris possibly buried.
Well, what I can do is I can have the state fire marshals, investigators, or my investigators come over and talk about that. What they normally do is they work their way backwards. They'll be checking the gas meter outside to see if there's anything that would indicate a gas leak. They'll be getting eyewitness reports, meaning tenants, if they're able to speak to us. They're just going to be doing some follow-up, and then that's what they normally do. Then they get into the building to find out where the fire started.
It's currently snowing right now again. It's not as much as, of course, over the weekend, but how have all these conditions been helping you guys or making it more difficult for you guys?
Well, like every community in the state, I mean, we're impacted by the blizzard. Police department's having trouble getting around town. We're having trouble getting around town. It is what it is. It's New England. We have snowstorms. We deal with it. It doesn't make it easy, but we do the job. We get it done.
Do you have
We
anything
do,
to say
and I
about
would
the
just
way
say
that the-
again, if people can stay off the roads, even today and tomorrow, if you don't have to be on the roads, it is going to be a huge help to us, not only cleaning up, but in case there are any more emergencies, which ultimately I've been listening to the scanner. You guys have been straight out since Sunday.
Do you know how many people total live in that home?
From what I told initially, there is 3, the child, the mother, her boyfriend, possibly 2 others, so possibly 5 people.
5 total? Okay.
That's unconfirmed. I don't have confirmed numbers on that.
Okay. And then anything that you want to say just about the way that the neighbors jumped into action to help?
I haven't heard anything about that yet. Like I said, I got here a little bit later after. It was difficult getting here. There's a lot of people on the road. They don't move. There's no place for them to go. But I imagine, this is a tight-knit community, working class neighborhood. So I imagine they all know each other, and they probably jumped in and do whatever they could do. So, that's what people do. Good city, good people. So, it is, I'm not surprised to hear that. So.
Is the fire under control now?
Oh, yes, the fire is under control. Gas, like I said, everything's under control. Eversource has the gas shut off. We're good to go from
Is
here.
the gas shut off to every house or just that one?
I don't know how far down it's affected.
Okay.
If it is, they're going to work as hard as they can to secure that site and then to restore the gas to everybody else so we can get the heat back on and the electricity back on. Obviously we don't want to have people impacted all day because of this. It is winter time, it's cold. So they need the heat, they need the power.
Just once again, where was the woman transported to?
The woman was transported to Rhode Island Hospital.
And then the child
And the
to
child
Hasbro?
was, Hasbro.
Thank you.
And I think there was a question about how long we'd be here, and it's going to be hours.
We're going to be here hours,
The
yes.
road will be blocked off for hours?
Yeah, the mayor's correct. I mean, we're going to block off this road. Obviously, it's a narrow road. It's a narrow neighborhood. Even in July, it's a tough neighborhood to drive down this road. So we're going to block off the road until we don't need the space anymore.
And we will have communications out constantly and letting people know when they can get back in with their vehicles. And as I said, 30 Olney Street, our senior center, is open for anyone that needs it.
Thank you both. Thank you very much.